So one thought on USC Michigan before the big game at the Big House this weekend. USC is favored by 5.5 points. Line kind of fluctuating there. I like USC to win and cover that number. If you're a Michigan fan, confident going into this game, and this is a pretty important game for Michigan, first Big Ten Conference game, you want to avoid having a second loss or else you'd have to win out to make the college football playoff, and you still have Ohio State and Oregon on the schedule. So now Oregon hasn't looked phenomenal, but for one game so far this year, still. If Michigan doesn't win this game, playoff hopes looking pretty darn dire. If you're a Michigan fan thinking, hey, we're going to go out and, get 27 points, win this game, slugfest it out, certainly if USC gets to 30 points, Michigan is not going to get there when they're making a quarterback change. But the fundamental question for Michigan is this: how are you going to score points in this game? Spencer, we're going to run the football. It's Michigan. Okay, I understand you're going to run the football. Is that going to produce touchdowns every time? Are you going to be able to run the football? Because I watched USC's defense so far this year. It's dramatically improved. I watched them against LSU that coming into the year was supposed to have one of the best offensive lines in the SEC, and they did struggle against South Carolina, so maybe they're not quite that good, but at the very least, they've got 2 NFL first, second round tackles on that offensive line. And USC, they didn't let them run the football a whole heck of a lot. Garrett Nussmeier had to move the ball. And by the way, final score of that game was 27-20. So that's a question I have about Michigan. How are you scoring points in this game? More than, 10-13. I don't suspect that they will. I think 17 points, maybe they can get to 20. I don't see them pushing in the upper 20s. I don't see them getting into the early 30s, not when they're making a quarterback change. That's why I think USC wins that game and covers the 5 points. Elsewhere around the Big Ten, Illinois, Nebraska. Love Nebraska tonight. Absolutely love Nebraska in this spot. I think Illinois is better than I thought. I think Nebraska is exactly what I thought. Maybe even better. I think Nebraska keeps it going. When they pick up a top 25 win here, which is what this matchup is, Nebraska should absolutely be moved to inside the top 20. They've been really impressive. If they win this game by 10, 14 points, they should be inside the top 20. They've been really impressive. Ohio State, they play Marshall. I'm not particularly worried there. Indiana is going to start 4-0. Do you understand that? Indiana plays Charlotte this week at home. Kurt Cignetti has got the boys rolling. Curtis Rourke is playing some really good football. He hasn't thrown an interception yet. I tell you what, Indiana could be one of the surprise teams of the Big Ten. At the very least, they look like they've made the right hire. Maryland at home, Villanova. I don't think Mike Loxley's team will have problems there. They're favored by around 17.5. I don't know if I cover that number because I haven't been impressed with them yet. I'll predict them to do that. I'll go Maryland 38, Villanova 13. I'll give you a confidence booster there for the Terrapins. But Kent State against Penn State. Penn State favored 7 touchdowns. Oof, that's a big number. Almost half a century in University Park. And, the last time Penn State played an inferior opponent, it didn't go very well. Bowling Green had them down 17-7. I sure hope against a Kent State team that's yet to win a football game this year, Penn State is able to dominate. I sure hope, and I suspect they'll get back to their ways. Speaking of dominating, LSU plays UCLA. If you would like an opportunity to make a financially lucrative investment, go bet LSU against UCLA. This is a UCLA team that I think is starting to accept. Someone who covers the team, not me, but someone who covers the team tweeted out that twice this week, the coaches had to stop UCLA's practice because there wasn't enough energy. This following a 42-13 beatdown by Indiana. They're going to Death Valley. I bid the Bruins good luck. Go in and, I don't know, get out healthy, I suppose. Give me LSU 45-13 in that football game. Might not even be 13. It might be more like 6. Virginia Tech hosting Rutgers. Virginia Tech's got to win that football game. They really do. If they want to have the sort of season that they're capable of on paper coming into the year, Virginia Tech has to win that football game. Favored by just over a field goal, I think they get it done. It's the best team that Rutgers has faced so far. It's on the road. Blacksburg should be hopping. Give me the Hokies 27-20. Northwestern Washington, speaking of teams in need of a bounce back, the Huskies, they need to get 3-1 here, or bowl eligibility is going to be in question, because this is the easy part of their schedule. They've got Rutgers on the road next week in Piscataway in their first true welcome to the Big Ten moment, where they go all the way across the continental United States, about as far as you can go from Seattle to Piscataway. It's one of the longest trips, I imagine. They host Northwestern this week. I think David Braun's team is scrappy. I don't know that it's great. I kind of feel the same way about Washington. I don't think it's great. I don't think they're terrible necessarily. Washington favored by 11.5. Give me the Huskies to win. I'll take Northwestern to cover there, though. 28-20. I think Washington wins at home. Iowa at Minnesota. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Show me what you're made of game. That's what this is. It's show me what you're made of. Iowa. Was that Iowa State loss a fluke or an indicative sign of bad things to come? Minnesota. Should you have beaten North Carolina, and should you be 3-0? Or should you actually be 1-2 if you had a tougher non-conference slate? This game is being played in Minneapolis. Hawkeyes are favored. I've got more faith in Iowa here. I think they go on the road, win this football game in a classic Iowa slugfest, 20-14. I think Iowa is able to win. Offense has been inconsistent for the Hawkeyes, but good enough, I think, to win that football game. One of the under-the-radar, interesting non-conference games in a couple of head coaches that are trying to build. But have they arrived sooner than we think? Think about this. I talked about Indiana and the potential to go to 4-0. Michigan State, who was already notched a win over Maryland on the road, 27-24. Is Jonathan Smith's team just better than we thought? We're going to find out. Boston College favored by 6.5 points in a Big Ten ACC showdown here. I think Bill O'Brien is a really good coach. I think Jonathan Smith is a really good coach. I think both guys have a little bit of building to do. I think Boston College has got less. Eagles win this one 27-17 over the Spartans at home in Chestnut Hill. And then finally, speaking of Jonathan Smith, his little team, Oregon State, is taking on the Big Ten this week. And the Beavs at home at Reser Stadium, where they're not an easy team to beat. I know Oregon thumped them last week. Newsflash, Purdue is not Oregon. Ryan Walters, year 2. I'm a little disappointed in Purdue. Thought they put up more of a fight against Notre Dame last week. They got blasted into oblivion. Beavs are favored in this game, and I think Oregon State is going to get the bounce back that they need to jumpstart their season. Whatever that season ends up being, I think Oregon State's going to win this football game in Corvallis. I just don't have any trust in what Purdue has put on the field through their first 2 games. Oregon State's got 3 under their belt. I think that matters a little bit more continuity, a little bit more assurance about how they want things to run and how to operate and how they want everything to look and feel on game days. This is at Reser Stadium, and Boilermaker fans are about to learn. That's a tough place to go. That is a tough place to go in and win a football game. So I'll take Oregon State to win that game. They like to run the ball, take the air out of it, kill the clock, play ball possession. They did that in the first half against Oregon last week. If they do that against Purdue, I think their defense could give up just 10 points, and that's how many I think they allow. 23-10, I think Oregon State gets the win.